Let's welcome to the CJU stage Group Director in CJ Leads, Alexander Higson, and Data Bowl's CEO, Simon Delaney.
Good morning, everyone. So many fresh-faced people in the room today. It's great to see. Hands up if you're hungover. No, not too many. We are well and truly in the midst of CJU, and I hope everyone's having a fantastic time. And we've definitely got a fun final few days ahead of us, and this morning is absolutely no exception. As you're getting the full British treatment this morning with myself and Simon. We even brought the weather along this morning, which is great. So you can expect equal levels of sarcastic humour and hopefully some useful information chucked in there for good measure as well. But by ways of introduction, I'm Alex Higson, Group Director of the CJ Leads team based out of the London office.
Hey, I'm Simon Delaney, CEO of Data Bowl. We work with the CJ Leads team as a technology provider and help deliver their clients high-quality leads. Today, we'll be diving into first-party data and specifically lead generation and how we can turn a CPL channel into predictable sales.
And seeing as we're at CJU, I'm sure sales and CPA is at the heart of most of your roles. This is how you've always understood CJ. It's what most of the conversations, I'm sure, have been about throughout the event. And this makes sense as the company was built on foundations of affiliate marketing, of course. But over the past few years, CJ's taken the steps to introduce and offer the best solutions for our advertisers and our publishers alike. So what that has meant is that we're moving into other core solutions like data and influencer. And this means much more emphasis on partnerships like Data Bowl. And they're well and truly focused on the end goal of sales and revenue, rather than just short to mid-term goals. And if we genuinely want to get under the hood of what a client really wants, which in our experience is not just leads and tends to be sales or revenue, then we can work this back into a strategy to ensure we're getting the best possible outcome. And data well and truly comes in different shapes and sizes, which is what I found out when researching this presentation and certainly throughout my career as well. And when you go online, you search different terminologies, right? So lead generation, database growth, building your CRM, and you get differing definitions. So you might get 8 easy step guides on how to build your CRM. You might get tools on how to build your pipeline. You might get guides on how to check your server growth metrics. You catch my drift here. And with ever-changing landscapes means ever more confusing terminologies that go with it. And you may hear first-party data thinking it doesn't relate to your role or your business. However, it very much relates to every single person in this room in one way or another. And this is an outcome of driving an industry forward. And overall, data becoming the single most valuable commodity in today's business world. And it's certainly a sentiment I think is shared by the business as well. Winding back to yesterday at the keynote with Santi Artur and Dave Pensky, who mentioned first-party data numerous times and the word data in the keynote speech. And this isn't a history of lead generation talk at all. I want some of you to stay awake through the presentation. But in order to understand the progression, I've got some key milestones for you. And similar to what was mentioned yesterday, lead generation and affiliate marketing began with the birth of the internet. And consumers were flooded with ads, offers, email spam, gaming, gambling, casino, you name it. And that's without much regulation at all. You then wind forward to the late 90s, when the introduction of PPC came about, when I was about 7 or 8 years old, big time for me. You then get the introduction of software solutions like HubSpot as well to automate lead generation. And then you have that all intertwined with improvement into mobile tech as well, and harnessing data privacy laws. And the conclusion of all of that coming together is that the consumer and business relationship is way more personalized. You get to have a full customer view of who your audience is and essentially gain LTV of a user within a database. And that is the main goal of most clients and publishers as well.
Thanks, Alex. So you'll have noticed over the last few years that everyone's been talking about first-party data and lead generation, and everyone wants to fill their CRM with leads. And it's understandable why. We've got cookie deprecation, which has been hanging over us like the sword of Damocles. That hasn't happened yet, but it almost certainly will at some point. We might be doing this in a decade and saying the same thing, but let's wait and see. Data regulations are tightening around the world. I think every country is just making it so you can't market to people easily. You can't just source data from somewhere and send like emails willy-nilly and just whatever you want with their data. We want to get closer relationships to consumers and not rely on third-party platforms like Google, Meta, and actually have direct one-to-one conversations. And cost efficiency and ROI is a massive part of this with the LTV, and over the long term, marketing one-to-one really makes sense. So leads and first-party data isn't just like a nice to have. We're on an inevitable path. It's what we're all going to have to do. But the problem we've got is we are possibly sleepwalking into another problem. What a line was that?
This is all part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're investigating and going to find out if this is an emergency or not. We'll let you know.
I'll carry on, because this is an emergency. So,
What have you done, Simon? What did you say?
yeah. So first-party data is great. Woo, we all love it, and we want it. So you can just run lead gen, right? It's like that simple. But the problem is there's no point in doing it unless, one, it's a real person, two, you can actually do something with it, and three, it's someone that can be your customer. And out of all leads collected or first-party data that's people's data, roughly 35% on average that fill CRMs will never be your customer. It's because it's bad data, it's deduped, it's suppressioned, it's bots, it's click farms. And so there's all this data that nothing can happen with. And in addition to that, we coined a phrase called CRM stuffing. I try not to do that movement while talking about it.
You said not to do that in the practice.
No.
Okay. We're doing it.
Yeah. From now on, when you say it, do that.
Okay.
So if all marketing leads collected, roughly 40% just sit in CRMs. Nothing happens to it at all. No sales, no marketing. This is because of like bad processes or inefficient processes, bad lead management practices, or just simply the inability of sales and marketing to decide what to do with it. And obviously, we want to help you solve that problem.
And there is a clear problem in the industry of data, and that's centered around quality, which is clearly shared by 47% of marketers, and I stole that from Santi yesterday. And the CJ Leads team took it upon ourselves to offer something to clients and publishers to help fix that issue. And Databall's suite of solutions are certainly key to achieving those results. And they are centered around delivering clean, compliant, and high-quality data. So it was a solution that we had to explore in order to be deliberate with our outcomes, but in turn, also with global data policies tightening over recent years. So with that in mind, we're approaching this from a lead generation and a data angle before a lead goes into a sales function. But the point is, within that lead generation function itself and receiving that lead, there are things that everyone can do today to increase your ability to make that sale. And what we'll do is we'll start with some context on what actually happens now. We'll then arm you with key considerations of a current and a new way of thinking, and then finally show you how the CJ Databall Alliance has achieved these results.
So before we do all of that, it's probably worth making sure that we're all on the same landing page. And so this is affiliate marketing via email, right? So if you're going to collect leads like that, what happens is You get an email, you're attracted to the offer in some way, the subject line, so you click it, you go onto a landing page, you fill the form in, and then you hit a thank you page. What normally happens at that stage is a pixel fires, and that tells the publisher, thanks for that lead, we're now going to pay you £10, and that's perfect. And then the data gets API'd over to the client CRM. That all seems really easy and simple, right?
But when you actually dig beneath the surface and understand the movement of data, you can really spot where the problem areas are and also where those gaps are leading to. And that leads us really nicely onto the 4 key considerations that will really transform your lead generation from CRM stuffing to predictable sales. And we want to promote, we're really keen on promoting this idea of a current way of doing things that maybe you're used to at the moment, which isn't necessarily the wrong way of doing it. It just might be within your sort of BAU activity. And then also promoting this more innovative new way of doing things that will certainly improve your lead buying over time. So let's get into point number 1. And a key thing here is to spread your bets. But what does that actually mean? You've got to know when to partner with lead generators, but just as importantly, when to actually walk away from them as well. And when working with publishers initially, the first thing that we insist on as a network is being able to spread that budget across as many quality sources as we possibly can. But to do this and to recognize who the good and the bad sources are, you need to ensure you're not being overly hasty within that process itself. And a source might be bad over a specific time period, become good. A good supplier can suddenly become bad. New sources can surprise you with incredible performance. And it's really important to understand that every source has a natural ceiling of performance. So anything beyond that natural ceiling and quality can start to suffer. So to mitigate against all of these factors and to minimize the risk of you being impacted by poor performance of a single supplier approach, you need to spread that budget across as many sources that will protect you from massive fluctuations in performance and quality that you may experience from a single supplier. And the secret to knowing this is to track what is happening at a granular level. So every ad, every keyword, every landing page, every source, every subsource by every single channel. And what this means is you can immediately identify underperforming, over-indexing granular aspects by each supplier. And more importantly, you're not flying in completely blind. So we want to promote that idea. You get really to the nub of the issue. You can track that full supplier and that approach at a much more transparent view and really get under the hood of that granular aspect itself.
So the second point of the 4 key considerations is verification and fraud detection. So verification is making sure someone's email address is accurate, their telephone number you can call them on, their postal address is real, and you could send them a letter if you wanted to. And fraud detection is about the metadata that's being collected. This can be the IP address, making sure it's not bots, click farms, anything else suspicious like that. Now, verification doesn't work against bots and click farms. And they're by far the most prevalent and nasty people who are trying to submit leads, I guess. Well, they're not people, bots, where they're trying to submit leads. And it's a mistake a lot of people make. They think that verification is going to work against bots. And so I think when someone puts a name in like Kamala Harris or Donald Trump or Linda O'Connell or Sean Olabusi or anything else nasty like that, it's going to stop a bot and a click farm. But it doesn't, because they only use 100% real data. The telephone numbers are always real, the names are never salacious, the addresses are always real. So verification doesn't work against it, but you have to verify the leads in addition to fraud detection, because otherwise you'll never be able to sell to them anyway, because someone's always going to put Mickey Mouse details or mistyped details or whatever. So the idea is you need to run both of them in conjunction with each other, verification and fraud detection. And the key thing is to not ever believe someone when they say to you, our leads are the best ever, or our traffic is so good it's incredible, because everybody says that. And carrying out verification and fraud detection means that you actually don't have to trust anyone. You just sort it out yourself.
And if you're not optimizing for sales, you're optimizing for leads, which is a really simple statement. But it then poses some really clear questions. So how do you optimize for those sales when you're actually buying leads externally? And one of the points I made earlier was tracking at a granular level. So that's really important, but also feeding back to your sources of what success looks like. And that's really important so they can go and hunt for that success rather than leads that you'll pay for. And why is doing that in real time the best approach? And the benefit of that real-time feedback is you're continually optimizing in the moment rather than just a snapshot over a specific time period. Traffic can change, leads change, sales change. We're all aware of that change itself. But it's better to work on that change in real time than wait for it to be identified after sales have already dipped. Closing the barn door as the horse has bolted, if you were. What does the feedback need to consist of? And really simply, the outcome of every single lead that you're generating. And this will help you keep track of performance and also keep the lead generator abreast of fluctuations in performance that they can fix and change in real time as well. And some of you lead generators out there might be thinking, what about me? What about if I'm generating high quality, I'm generating sales, but I'm getting paid exactly the same as a lead generator that might be driving poorer performance? And what you can do is set a baseline CPL for a minimum level of acceptance. And that can be over a given time period. It could be a month. It could be a week minimum. And then you have upticks on those rates for sales and essentially giving the incentives to the publishers to continue that performance and hunt for that success. This also gives you more emphasis to feedback results in real time. And there's nothing worse for your suppliers than waiting around for insight into performance. And as a network, we certainly feel this firsthand with our clients as well. Whereas in reality, lead generators will more likely work with those networks or advertisers that may pay less, but they're feeding back that data in real time. So in fact, best sources, they're in high demand, will look to work with those companies they can share success with and really create a long-term, true partnership, which is exactly why Databall is working with CJ, isn't it?
That's right, Alex, yeah.
Nice.
You could always pay us more, though. Now, the fourth point on the key consideration is lead nurturing. And this is a really important aspect of lead generation. So everybody might think, well, not everybody, a lot of people think it's a bit like a sale. The whole point is they're a lead. They're not quite ready to make that leap to become a customer yet. So you have to engage them, you have to provide value, you have to be entertaining, or whatever it is that you're going to be doing that's going to be adding value to people. So if you remember back to a few slides ago, 40% of people are just filling CRMs without doing anything to it. The other 60%, the vast majority of them are just sending sales email after sales email after sales email. And it's all like, look at me or buy this or whatever. And that doesn't necessarily work with leads. You've got to provide value to them. You have to solve their problem, or you have to hit a desire that they've got. So a classic example of this is that you are lead nurturing to a person who could become your customer, but at the same time, you're keeping top of mind. This works really well for word of mouth. So I might not be your customer because I don't know, I'm going to dedupe or something else, but you're sending me these valuable emails anyway. Now, if someone comes to me with a problem they've got, so Alex comes to me, say, with a sensitive problem that he wants to solve, and I've been getting this email about a cream that solves his problem. So when he talks to me privately about this, and I go, well, you should try this cream, that might get rid of the rash.
Again, we just went off topic.
They've made a sale, but it's not trackable. It's a bit like dark social we talk about in B2B, and it's the same as what Arturo and Santi were talking about yesterday, of affiliate could almost boost other channels. The lead nurturing is kind of the same. You're boosting sales elsewhere. We had another thing that we did with this. On the landing page you saw earlier with a £20 Amazon voucher, we ran that in the UK for an energy company. So when someone filled a lead in, it went off to a sales team. If they made a sale, that person got £20. But what we did when the lead came in, we sent them a text to say, here's a unique link, send this to your friends and family. If any of them convert, we'll give you £20 and give them £20. Guess what the best performing source was of the whole thing? It was those referrals. They weren't the most, but they were the best performing. Those leads converted at a really high level. And this is a point with lead nurturing. It's something you really have to put effort into. Oh, it's me again, sorry. So we've gone through the four key considerations here. And this is what actually happens when you do all of this. So publishers are driving traffic, and this could be via email, native, social, however they're going to drive traffic. Someone hits a landing page. On there is fraud detection. We're trying to get rid of bots, click farms, anything else nasty. A person then fills the form in. We have verification on the form. Is the email address real? Is the postal address accurate? Is the telephone number contactable? They then hit a thank you page. Now, normally what happens is that pixel fires, but we don't do it. A lead comes into Databall, and then we do additional database checks. So we're deduping, suppressing, checking caps, salacious names, whatever. The data then gets sent to the client's CRM, and only if their CRM accepts it does the pixel then fire. So this completely changes how it just happens on the thank you page. And this stops all the sort of argy-bargy at the end of the month with transaction IDs where people go, oh, you know, we're going to reject this, because suddenly the client has accepted it at this point. As a result, the lead's much higher quality, and on the base of this talk, obviously, some really good lead nurturing will be carried out. And what this looks like for a client is HelloFresh is one of our clients. They buy over 100,000 leads a month across different geos. They save, I put £500,000, which is translated exactly to $658,000 per year, just by rejecting bad leads and putting more budget where the best leads are coming from. So if you look here on this acceptance rate by source, you can see the overall acceptance rate is 83%. Now, if you don't do these 4 key considerations, you only have one barometer for success, and that's the cost of the lead. So invariably, you put your budget where the cheapest leads come from. And in this instance, this is supplier 5, but they only supply 16% of the leads. That's because their leads are crap. But that's where everyone else puts all their budget. And if you're not tracking it back to a sale, that's why you're just CRM stuffing and not actually hitting ROI or CPA or anything else.
Firstly, I don't have a sensitive issue, by the way. I just want to state that.
What's that?
From that example you just gave.
Oh, that'll protect us too much.
Another key example that we've got is via one of our major gambling clients, which is delivered out of the UK. And they had some real problem areas. And the first one was actually centralizing their sources into one platform and being able to see depositors at an ID level. So not just the data, but something further down the funnel. And in line with Databall, our solution included creating separate lead pages for the UK and the US traffic. And that allowed us to ring fence that data and study insights per region. We then moved into onboarding their suite of publishers onto CJ and merging both of the networks into one global entity. We then worked on providing the client with Databall links per source and channel, and that gave us the granular view, which we've mentioned a couple times. And then finally building that feedback loop on depositor information between the two systems. So everyone in that process has complete transparency on performance. And the stats really speak for themselves, but this resulted in huge increases in lead screening by rejecting the data in real time and using client insights to structure our rejection rationale. This then culminated in a huge jump in qualified data by 24% and ever-growing conversion rates of users into depositors per ID and per region. And as we move into the sort of final slides of this, and if you're going to take one slide from this presentation, this is probably the best one to do. So feel free to take out your phones and take a snap. We can pose as well if you want. But I've also included, try and get out of the way, also included a QR code there as well for a comprehensive guide on first-party data that CJ has created. But the overarching point here is similar to what Artur mentioned yesterday on the motivation as to why Publicis Group actually acquired the Epsilon CJ Alliance. And that is to arm every single one of you with the knowledge to take control of every aspect of the user journey itself. So take back control of your data, and that's from source right through to the sale. And this is helped by realizing what you're genuinely looking to achieve with your lead activity. So make sure you're structuring that process accordingly and really think carefully on these 4 points that we've gone over today. And Simon and I will happily talk to you about how you're generating data. So great time for a humble plug for our first Leads Mixer event after this session at 10:45. That's in partnership with our dear friends at Office 365. Go on, Sean, wave. So feel free to come along, guys. There'll be there'll be refreshments if that helps. There's no booze there, though, unfortunately. It's a bit early. It's in Suite 316 on the 3rd floor. We're looking forward to seeing many of you there as we possibly can. So thank you very much for coming. Thanks to Simon for doing that with me. And have a good CJU.
Thanks.